The Oracle of Delphi sat shrouded in mist, her voice echoing through the sacred temple as kings and warriors sought her wisdom. Her cryptic prophecies didn't just predict the future, they shaped the rise and fall of empires. But Delphi was just one thread in the vast tapestry of ancient divination. Across the globe, our ancestors turned to the stars, the flames, and even the cracks in animal bones to seek answers to life's greatest mysteries. These weren't just rituals of superstition, they were sophisticated systems of decision-making, guidance, and understanding the unknown. Today, we're diving into 40 of the most fascinating ancient divination techniques ever uncovered. What secrets did our ancestors find in the patterns of smoke or the flight of birds? How did they use these methods to navigate their world, and what can they teach us about our own quest for clarity? From the cryptic whispers of oracles to the precise calculations of astrologers, this journey through history promises to reveal not just how they saw the future, but how we might still connect with these timeless practices today. In the heart of ancient Rome, the skies were more than just a canvas of clouds, they were a divine map, a language spoken by the gods themselves. Enter the world of augury, where priests known as augurs sought to decipher the will of the heavens by studying the flight patterns of birds. This wasn't mere superstition, it was a highly respected science of its time, deeply woven into the fabric of Roman politics, warfare, and even city planning. The augurs believed that birds, as creatures of the air, were closer to the gods and could carry messages from the divine. Specific birds held particular significance. Eagles symbolized power and victory, while vultures often foretold doom or misfortune. The rituals of augury were precise and ceremonial. An augur would first mark out a sacred space or templum, using his staff to divide the sky into quadrants. Then, with eyes fixed on the heavens, he would observe the birds' movements, how they flew, where they landed, and even the sounds they made. A bird flying from left to right might signal divine approval, while one moving in the opposite direction could spell disaster. These interpretations weren't taken lightly. They influenced major decisions, from when to wage war to where to lay the foundations of a new city. One of the most famous moments tied to augury is the legendary founding of Rome itself. According to myth, Romulus and Remus, the twin brothers vying to establish the city, turned to augury to settle their dispute. Romulus claimed to see 12 vultures, a sign of divine favor, while Remus saw only 6. This vision sealed Romulus's fate as the city's founder, marking augury not just as a tool of prophecy but as a cornerstone of Roman identity. But augury wasn't just about the birds, it was about the connection between humanity and the divine, a reminder that the natural world held secrets waiting to be unlocked. As we move from the skies to the flames, our next technique takes us to the mesmerizing practice of pyromancy, where fire itself becomes a messenger of the unseen. How did ancient cultures interpret the dance of flames, and what hidden truths did they believe it revealed? The answers lie just ahead. Fire has always held a primal fascination for humanity, its warmth, its light, its power to destroy and transform. But for ancient civilizations, fire was more than a tool or a force of nature. It was a portal to the divine. Enter the practice of pyromancy, the art of divination through fire. From the sacred hearths of Greece to the bonfires of the Celts, flames were seen as messengers, carrying secrets from the gods to those who knew how to interpret them. The rituals of pyromancy varied across cultures, but they all shared a common thread: the belief that fire could reveal truths hidden from ordinary sight. In ancient Greece, for instance, oracles would gather around a blazing hearth, their eyes locked on the flickering flames. They observed every detail: the color of the fire, the shapes it formed, even the sounds it made. A bright, steady flame might signify prosperity and divine favor, while a weak, sputtering one could warn of impending hardship. The crackling of the fire was thought to be the voices of spirits, whispering guidance to those who listened closely. One particularly striking tale comes from the Greek oracle of Dodona, who is said to have used pyromancy to guide King Pyrrhus of Epirus. As the flames danced before her, she saw a vision of a great battle, the outcome of which depended on the king's next move. The oracle interpreted the fire's erratic movements as a sign that victory would come at a steep cost. Her cryptic advice, to avoid unnecessary conflict, was a warning that Pyrrhus ultimately ignored, leading to what historians now call a Pyrrhic victory, a triumph so costly it was tantamount to defeat. The Celts, too, held fire in sacred regard. During the festival of Beltane, they lit massive bonfires to mark the beginning of summer and to seek blessings for the coming season. The way the flames leaped and twisted was believed to hold clues about the future, while the smoke rising into the night sky carried prayers to the gods. Even the embers left behind were considered potent omens. Their patterns were studied for signs of what lay ahead. But pyromancy wasn't just about reading the fire, it was about understanding the interconnectedness of the natural world. The flames were seen as a bridge between the earthly and the divine, a reminder that every spark carried a message waiting to be understood. As we leave the realm of fire behind, our next journey takes us to the solid, unyielding earth, where ancient diviners sought wisdom in the cracks and shapes of the ground itself. How did they unlock the secrets hidden beneath their feet, and what did they believe the earth was trying to tell them? The answers lie just ahead. Beneath our feet lies a hidden language etched into the soil, sand, and stones, a language ancient diviners believed held the secrets of the future. This is the world of geomancy, a practice that turns the earth itself into a map of destiny. Originating in the Middle East, geomancy quickly spread across continents, becoming a cornerstone of medieval European divination. Unlike the fleeting movements of birds or the ephemeral dance of flames, geomancy offered a tangible, grounded connection to the divine. The process of geomancy was both methodical and mystical. A geomancer would begin by drawing a series of dots or lines in the earth, often using sand, soil, or even small stones. These markings were then arranged into a grid, creating a complex pattern of symbols known as figurae. Each symbol carried its own meaning, representing everything from love and fortune to conflict and loss. By interpreting the relationships between these symbols, the geomancer could unlock insights into the past, present, and future. One of the most fascinating aspects of geomancy was its adaptability. While the practice began in the arid landscapes of the Middle East, it evolved as it traveled. In medieval Europe, geomancers often incorporated local traditions, blending ancient techniques with the spiritual beliefs of the time. This fusion made geomancy a versatile tool, used by everyone from peasants seeking guidance on harvests to nobles making decisions about alliances and warfare. A particularly compelling story comes from 13th century France, where a geomancer named Bertrand de Montfavet became renowned for his accuracy. During a time of political turmoil, the de Montfavet family sought his guidance to navigate a looming crisis. Using a grid of stones and sand, Bertrand revealed a pattern that warned of betrayal within their inner circle. His advice to strengthen alliances and fortify their defenses proved crucial, saving the family from disaster and cementing geomancy's reputation as a powerful tool for decision-making. Geomancy wasn't just about predicting the future, it was about understanding the interconnectedness of the natural world. The Earth, with its enduring stability, was seen as a mirror of the cosmos, its patterns reflecting the will of the divine. As we leave the solid ground behind, our next journey takes us to the fluid, ever-changing world of water. What secrets did ancient cultures believe were hidden in its depths, and how did they unlock its mysteries? The answers await in the next chapter of our exploration. Water, the lifeblood of civilizations, has always held a mystical allure. For ancient cultures, it wasn't just a source of survival. It was a mirror to the divine, a surface through which the secrets of the universe could ripple into view. This belief gave rise to hydromancy, the art of divination through water. From the sacred Nile to humble bowls filled with liquid, hydromancers sought to decode the messages carried by its currents, reflections, and even its stillness. In ancient Egypt, the Nile was more than a river. It was a living entity, a god. Its annual flooding brought life to the land, and its movements were seen as direct communications from the divine. Priests known as hierogrammates would stand along its banks, observing the water's flow, color, and behavior. A swift, clear current might signal prosperity and the god's favor, while sluggish, murky waters could warn of famine or unrest. The Nile's patterns were so revered that they influenced everything from agricultural planning to royal decrees. But hydromancy wasn't confined to grand rivers. In many cultures, it was practiced on a smaller, more intimate scale. Hydromancers would fill bowls with water, often adding oils, herbs, or even precious stones to enhance the water's reflective properties. They would then gaze into its surface, searching for shapes, ripples, or distortions that carried meaning. Sometimes, the water itself seemed to come alive, forming images or symbols that only the trained eye could interpret. One striking example comes from a medieval hydromancer in Mesopotamia who used a ceremonial bowl to predict a devastating drought. As the water shimmered under candlelight, the diviner noticed a series of concentric ripples forming, followed by a sudden stillness. Interpreting this as a sign of impending scarcity, the hydromancer warned the local community to store their grain and conserve water. Months later, when the drought struck, the village was prepared thanks to the hydromancer's foresight. Hydromancy's power lay in its simplicity and universality. Water, after all, is everywhere. Its fluidity makes it a perfect medium for divination, capable of reflecting both the seen and the unseen. But as we turn our gaze from the flowing waters below, our next journey takes us to the infinite expanse above. What secrets did ancient cultures believe were written in the stars, and how did they use the heavens to navigate their futures? The answers await as we explore the celestial art of astrology. Long before telescopes and star charts, humanity looked to the heavens and saw more than just twinkling lights. They saw a cosmic script, a celestial language that could foretell the rise and fall of kingdoms, the fate of individuals, and the turning points of history. This is the world of astrology, a divination practice that has captivated civilizations for millennia. From the ziggurats of Babylon to the imperial courts of China, astrology was not just a science of the stars, it was a bridge between the earthly and the divine, a way to navigate the uncertainties of life by reading the patterns of the cosmos. At the heart of ancient astrology was the belief that the movements of celestial bodies, planets, stars, and constellations were intricately connected to events on Earth. The Babylonians, often credited as the founders of Western astrology, meticulously tracked the skies, creating detailed records of planetary movements and their correlations with earthly happenings. They believed that the heavens were a mirror of the divine will, and by interpreting the stars, they could predict everything from the weather to the outcome of wars. The zodiac, a cornerstone of astrological practice, emerged as a way to map the sky into 12 distinct sections, each associated with a constellation and a set of traits. These zodiac signs became a tool for understanding personality, destiny, and even compatibility. In ancient Greece, the philosopher-astrologer Ptolemy further refined these ideas, linking planetary alignments to human behavior and events. A conjunction of Mars and Saturn, for instance, might signal conflict, while the appearance of Venus could herald love or prosperity. Astrology's influence extended far beyond the realm of personal fortune-telling. Kings and emperors relied on astrologers to guide their decisions, viewing celestial events as omens of divine favor or warning. One such story comes from the court of King Nebuchadnezzar II of Babylon. When faced with the threat of invasion, the king turned to his court astrologer, who observed a rare alignment of Jupiter and Saturn. Interpreting this as a sign of impending victory, the astrologer advised the king to prepare for battle. The resulting campaign was a resounding success, solidifying astrology's role as a tool of power and strategy. But astrology wasn't confined to the courts of kings. In ancient China, astrologers known as Shi used the stars to guide everything from agricultural cycles to the construction of cities. The Chinese zodiac, with its 12 animal signs, became a cultural touchstone, shaping traditions and beliefs for centuries. Even today, the legacy of ancient astrology endures, reminding us of humanity's timeless fascination with the stars. As we leave the celestial realms behind, our next technique takes us to the more tactile world of divination, where chance and choice intertwine. What happens when the future is decided not by the stars, but by the roll of a die or the casting of a lot? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of cleromancy. Long before dice became a staple of board games, they were tools of destiny, used to unlock the secrets of the future. This is the world of cleromancy, the ancient practice of casting lots, stones, bones, or marked objects to seek guidance from the divine. Unlike the celestial maps of astrology or the fluid whispers of hydromancy, cleromancy relied on chance, believing that even randomness could carry the fingerprints of the gods. In ancient Israel, cleromancy took a sacred form with the Urim and Thummim, two objects kept in the breastplate of the high priest. When leaders faced difficult decisions, they would consult these sacred lots, interpreting their outcomes as direct messages from God. The Urim and Thummim were more than mere tools. They were conduits of divine will, their answers shaping the course of nations. But cleromancy wasn't confined to the Middle East. Across the globe, cultures developed their own versions of this practice. The Norse, for example, cast rune stones carved with symbols, each representing a different aspect of life or fate. The Chinese used oracle bones, inscribing questions onto turtle shells or animal bones before heating them until they cracked. The patterns of these fractures were then read as messages from ancestors or deities, guiding everything from harvests to battles. One particularly compelling story comes from a small village in medieval Scandinavia, where a rune caster guided his community through a devastating famine. As crops failed and hunger spread, the villagers turned to him for answers. Casting the runes, he revealed a pattern that pointed to a nearby valley, untouched by the drought. Following his guidance, the villagers relocated, finding fertile land and a chance to rebuild their lives. This act of divination wasn't just about survival. It was about hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, the gods could provide a path forward. Cleromancy's enduring appeal lies in its simplicity and universality. Whether through stones, bones, or dice, it offered a tangible way to connect with the divine, turning chance into meaning. But as we turn from the physical to the intangible, our next journey takes us into the realm of the subconscious. What secrets did ancient cultures believe were hidden in the world of dreams, and how did they interpret these nightly visions? The answers await as we explore the enigmatic practice of oneiromancy. Dreams have always been a mysterious gateway between the waking world and the unseen, a place where the boundaries of reality blur and the divine whispers through symbols and visions. This is the realm of oneiromancy, the ancient practice of interpreting dreams to uncover hidden truths and divine messages. For civilizations like ancient Egypt and Greece, dreams weren't just figments of the imagination, they were sacred communications, a direct line to the gods. In ancient Egypt, dreams were considered so powerful that they shaped the decisions of pharaohs and commoners alike. temples dedicated to dream interpretation, known as incubation chambers, were built across the land. Here, seekers would sleep in sacred spaces, often after performing rituals or prayers, hoping to receive a vision from the gods. Priests trained in the art of oneromancy would interpret these dreams using detailed catalogues of symbols and their meanings. A dream of a snake might signify transformation or danger, while a vision of flowing water could represent abundance or renewal. The Greeks, too, held dreams in high regard, believing they were sent by gods like Morpheus, the deity of dreams. The famous Oracle of Delphi wasn't the only place where divine messages were sought. Dream oracles, such as the one at the Temple of Asclepius, offered guidance through dream visions. Patients seeking healing would sleep in the temple, hoping to dream of Asclepius, the god of medicine, who would appear in their dreams to diagnose ailments or prescribe treatments. One of the most iconic examples of oneromancy comes from the biblical story of Joseph. Imprisoned in Egypt, Joseph's ability to interpret dreams caught the attention of Pharaoh, who was troubled by recurring visions of 7 fat cows being devoured by 7 thin ones, followed by 7 healthy ears of grain consumed by 7 withered ones. Joseph interpreted these dreams as a divine warning of 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. His insight not only saved Egypt from disaster, but also elevated him to a position of great power. Dream interpretation wasn't just about predicting the future, it was about understanding the self and the divine. Dreams were seen as a mirror of the soul, reflecting desires, fears, and spiritual truths. As we leave the ethereal world of dreams behind, our next technique takes us to a more visceral realm, one where the secrets of the future were believed to be written in the very flesh of animals. What mysteries did ancient cultures uncover through the reading of entrails, and how did this practice shape their understanding of fate? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of haruspicy. The practice of haruspicy might sound gruesome to modern ears, but for the ancient Etruscans and Romans it was a sacred art, a way to decode the will of the gods by studying the inner workings of animals. This method of divination, which involved examining the entrails of sacrificed animals, was far more than a ritual of superstition. It was a sophisticated system of interpretation, one that turned the liver, heart, and other organs into a cosmic map of fate and fortune. The Etruscans, who dominated central Italy before the rise of Rome, were the pioneers of haruspicy. They believed that the gods communicated through the natural world, and that the organs of animals, especially the liver, were a direct reflection of divine will. The liver, in particular, was seen as a microcosm of the universe, its lobes and markings corresponding to different celestial forces and earthly events. Etruscan priests, known as haruspices, were trained to read these signs with precision, using their knowledge to guide rulers, predict harvests, and even avert disasters. When the Romans conquered the Etruscans, they didn't just absorb their territory, they adopted their divination practices. Haruspicy became a cornerstone of Roman religion and politics, with haruspices holding significant influence in the Senate and on the battlefield. Before major decisions or military campaigns, a sacrificial animal, often a sheep or goat, would be offered to the gods. The haruspex would then perform a detailed examination of its entrails, searching for signs of divine approval or warning. One famous example comes from the Second Punic War, when the Roman general Publius Cornelius Scipio sought guidance before a critical battle against Carthage. The haruspex performing the ritual discovered a malformation in the animal's liver, which he interpreted as a dire omen. Despite the warning, Scipio chose to proceed, trusting his own strategy over the divination. The battle ended in a stunning Roman victory, but the event sparked debate about the role of haruspicy in decision-making. Was the malformation a genuine warning, or had the gods simply tested Scipio's resolve? Haruspice's power lay in its tangibility. Unlike the abstract symbols of dreams or the fleeting movements of birds, the entrails offered a concrete, visceral connection to the divine. Yet, as we turn from the physical to the reflective, our next technique takes us into a world where the future was seen not in flesh, but in glass. What secrets did ancient cultures believe were hidden in the reflective surfaces of mirrors, and how did they use them to glimpse beyond the veil of time? The answers await as we explore the enigmatic practice of cataptromancy. Mirrors have long been more than tools for vanity. They've been portals to the unseen, windows into the hidden corners of reality. This belief gave rise to cataptromancy, the ancient art of mirror divination. In a world where reflections were thought to hold more than just an image, mirrors became instruments for glimpsing the future, uncovering secrets, and even communicating with the divine. In ancient Greece, mirrors weren't just polished pieces of metal. They were sacred objects believed to carry the power to reveal truths beyond the physical world. Cataptromancers, the practitioners of this art, used mirrors in various forms, from polished bronze to water-filled bowls to scry for answers. The process was both meditative and ritualistic. A practitioner would often sit in a dimly lit room, focusing intently on the reflective surface, allowing their mind to drift into a trance-like state. Shapes, symbols, or even full visions would appear in the mirror, offering cryptic messages that required careful interpretation. One of the most striking examples of cataptromancy comes from a tale set in the city of Corinth. A noblewoman, troubled by whispers of betrayal within her household, sought out a renowned cataptromancer. After performing a series of rituals, the diviner gazed into a bronze mirror and saw a shadowy figure standing behind the noblewoman holding a dagger. The vision was clear. A trusted servant was plotting against her. Acting on the warning, the noblewoman uncovered the plot and averted disaster, solidifying the reputation of cataptromancy as a powerful tool for uncovering hidden truths. But cataptromancy wasn't just about revealing betrayal or danger. It was also a way to seek guidance and clarity. In some traditions, mirrors were used to communicate with spirits or ancestors, their reflections acting as a bridge between the living and the dead. The reflective surface was seen as a liminal space, a boundary where the material and spiritual worlds could intersect. As we step away from the shimmering surfaces of mirrors, our journey takes us to a more familiar yet equally mysterious practice, one that transforms the simple act of drinking tea into a window to the future. What secrets lie at the bottom of a teacup, and how did ancient cultures interpret the patterns left behind? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of tasseography. The next time you sip a cup of tea, take a moment to look at the leaves left behind. What might seem like random debris could hold a hidden message. This is the essence of tasseography, the ancient art of reading tea leaves. Originating in ancient China, where tea was first cultivated, tasseography quickly spread across the globe, becoming a beloved divination practice in cultures as diverse as the Ottoman Empire and Victorian England. It wasn't just about drinking tea, it was about unlocking the stories written in the dregs of a cup. The process of tasseography is both simple and profound. After drinking a cup of loose leaf tea, the reader examines the patterns left by the leaves. The shapes, positions, and even the way the leaves cluster are believed to form symbols, each carrying its own meaning. A leaf shaped like a heart might signify love, while a spiral could indicate a journey or transformation. The position of these symbols within the cup also matters. Leaves near the rim often represent the immediate future, while those at the bottom may point to long-term outcomes. One of the most charming tales of tasseography comes from 19th century England, where a traveling merchant sought the guidance of a renowned tea leaf reader. After finishing his cup, the reader noticed a cluster of leaves forming the shape of a ship near the rim, with smaller leaves scattered like waves. She interpreted this as a sign that the merchant's upcoming voyage would be safe and prosperous despite the stormy weather forecast. True to her prediction, the merchant's journey went smoothly, and he returned with a wealth of goods, crediting the tea leaves for his good fortune. Tasseography's enduring appeal lies in its accessibility and intimacy. Unlike grand rituals or elaborate tools, it requires nothing more than a cup of tea and an open mind. It's a practice that invites us to slow down, to find meaning in the small and fleeting, and to connect with the unseen in a way that feels deeply personal. As we leave the comforting warmth of tea behind, our next technique takes us to a more visceral realm, one where the future is read not in leaves but in bones. What secrets do these ancient remnants hold, and how did cultures across the world use them to divine the unknown? The answers lie ahead as we delve into the intriguing practice of osteomancy. Bones are more than just remnants of the past. They are vessels of wisdom carrying messages from the unseen world. This is the essence of osteomancy, the ancient practice of bone divination, where the cracks, shapes, and positions of bones are read as signs from the divine. From the vast plains of Africa to the forests of North America, osteomancy has been a trusted method for seeking guidance, offering a tangible connection to the spiritual realm. In many African traditions, osteomancy is deeply rooted in rituals that honor ancestors and nature. Diviners, often called sangomas or ngangas, would collect bones from animals like goats, sheep, or even birds, each chosen for its symbolic significance. These bones were carefully prepared, sometimes inscribed with sacred markings, and then cast onto a mat or the ground. The way the bones fell, their positions, groupings, and orientations was interpreted to reveal insights about the future, relationships, or even health. A bone pointing north might signify new beginnings, while one lying atop another could indicate conflict or unity. Native American tribes also practiced osteomancy, often using the bones of animals they hunted or revered. The bones of a deer, for example, were seen as carriers of wisdom from the spirit of the forest. In some tribes, shamans would cast the bones in a ceremonial circle, reading the patterns as a map of the tribe's destiny. The cracks and marks on the bones were thought to hold messages from the spirits, offering guidance on everything from hunting expeditions to communal disputes. One particularly compelling story comes from a tribe in the Great Plains during a harsh and unrelenting winter. As food stores dwindled and the cold grew unbearable, the tribe's osteomancer was called upon to seek guidance. After casting the bones, the diviner noticed a cluster of bones forming a distinct path toward the east, with one bone marked by a deep crack. Interpreting this as a sign to journey eastward, the tribe followed the guidance, eventually discovering a sheltered valley abundant with game and resources. The bones had not only led them to survival, but also reinforced their trust in the spiritual wisdom of their ancestors. Osteomancy's power lies in its simplicity and connection to the natural world. It's a reminder that even the most ordinary objects like bones can carry extraordinary meaning. But as we turn from the solid remnants of the past, our next technique takes us to the ethereal and ever-changing world of smoke. What secrets do the swirling patterns of smoke hold, and how did ancient cultures interpret these fleeting visions? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of capnomancy. As the fragrant tendrils of incense rise and curl through the air, they carry more than just a pleasant aroma. They hold secrets, messages, and prophecies. This is the essence of capnomancy, the ancient art of smoke divination. For cultures like the Persians and Greeks, smoke wasn't just a byproduct of fire. It was a language, a conduit between the earthly and the divine. By studying the patterns, direction, and even the color of smoke, capnomancers believed they could unlock the mysteries of the future and gain insight into the will of the gods. In ancient Persia, capnomancy was deeply intertwined with Zoroastrian rituals, where fire and smoke were considered sacred elements. priests would burn specific herbs and resins, their smoke carefully observed for signs and omens. The direction in which the smoke drifted was particularly significant. Smoke rising straight and steady was seen as a sign of divine approval, while smoke that wavered or spiraled unpredictably might indicate unrest or misfortune. The density of the smoke also mattered. Thick, billowing clouds could symbolize abundance or protection, while thin, wispy trails might suggest vulnerability or loss. The Greeks, too, embraced capnomancy, often incorporating it into their ceremonies and oracular practices. At the Oracle of Delphi, for instance, incense was burned to purify the sacred space and invite divine presence. The patterns of the smoke were interpreted as messages from the gods, offering guidance to those who sought answers. Capnomancers would also use smoke to scry, gazing into its shifting forms to discern symbols or visions that revealed hidden truth. One particularly fascinating tale comes from ancient Persia, where a capnomancer was called upon to predict the outcome of a proposed royal marriage. As the incense burned, the smoke formed a series of intricate spirals, eventually coalescing into the shape of a crown. The capnomancer interpreted this as a sign of a powerful union, one that would bring stability and prosperity to the kingdom. The marriage proceeded, and the couple's reign was indeed marked by peace and prosperity, cementing the reputation of capnomancy as a reliable tool for divination. Capnomancy's allure lies in its ephemeral nature. Smoke is fleeting, yet it carries profound meaning. It's a reminder that even the most transient elements of the natural world can hold deep significance. But as the smoke dissipates, our journey takes us to a practice where chance and destiny collide in a different way. What happens when the future is decided not by the wisps of smoke, but by the roll of dice? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of astrogalomancy. Long before dice became a staple of board games, they were instruments of fate, casting not just numbers but prophecies. This is the world of astrogalomancy, the ancient art of divination using dice or knucklebones, a practice that transformed chance into a language of the divine. While it might seem like a game of luck, astrogalomancy was a revered method for seeking guidance, one that spanned continents and centuries, from the bustling markets of ancient Mesopotamia to the shadowed halls of medieval Europe. The origins of astrogalomancy trace back to Mesopotamia, where the first dice-like objects were crafted from the knucklebones of sheep or goats. These small, irregular bones, known as astrogoli, were prized for their natural markings and unpredictable rolls. Each side of the bone carried a distinct meaning, and the way it landed was believed to reveal the will of the gods. Over time, these knucklebones evolved into the six-sided dice we recognize today, but the core principle remained the same. The numbers rolled were more than random, they were messages. In medieval Europe, astrogalomancy became a popular form of divination, especially among merchants and traders who sought clarity in their business ventures. A roll of the dice could determine whether a journey would be prosperous or perilous, whether a deal should be struck or avoided. Specific numbers and combinations held particular significance. A roll of 3, for instance, might signify balance and harmony, while a double 6 could indicate unexpected fortune or a stroke of luck. The interpretation of these rolls required not just knowledge of the symbols, but also an intuitive understanding of the context in which they were cast. One particularly compelling tale comes from a medieval merchant in Venice who faced a critical decision about a risky trade expedition to the east. Uncertain of the outcome, he consulted an astrogalomancer who rolled the dice 3 times. The first roll revealed a 4, symbolizing stability, the second a 2, suggesting caution, and the third a 6, indicating opportunity. The astrogalomancer interpreted this sequence as a sign that while the venture would be challenging, it held great potential for reward if approached with care. The merchant heeded the advice, carefully planning his journey and ultimately returning with a fortune in rare spices and silks. This story not only highlights the practical applications of astrogalomancy, but also its enduring appeal as a tool for navigating uncertainty. Astrogalomancy's power lies in its simplicity and universality. Whether through knucklebones or dice, it offered a tangible way to connect with the divine, turning chance into meaning. But as we move from the roll of dice to the shuffle of cards, our next technique takes us to a practice that combines artistry, intuition, and symbolism in a way that has captivated seekers for centuries. What secrets lie within the deck, and how did ancient cultures use cards to unlock the mysteries of the future? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of cartomancy. The deck of cards you might use for a casual game of poker or solitaire has a far richer history than you might imagine. This is the world of cartomancy, the ancient practice of using playing cards to divine the future. While today we often associate card reading with tarot, the roots of cartomancy stretch back to medieval Europe, where ordinary playing cards were first transformed into tools of prophecy. What began as a simple pastime evolved into a profound method for uncovering hidden truths, offering guidance, and connecting with the unseen. In its earliest form, cartomancy was practiced with the standard deck of playing cards we still use today. Each suit, hearts, diamonds, clubs, and spades, carried its own symbolic meaning. Hearts often represented matters of love and emotion, while diamonds were tied to wealth and material concerns. Clubs symbolized knowledge and creativity, and spades were linked to challenges or transformation. The numbers and face cards added further layers of interpretation. For instance, the Ace of Spades might signify a major upheaval, while the Queen of Hearts could point to a nurturing figure or a powerful emotional influence. As cartomancy spread across Europe, it began to intertwine with the mystical symbolism of tarot. Originally used as a game in Renaissance Italy, tarot decks were later adapted for divination, their intricate imagery offering even deeper insights. The Tarot's major arcana, with cards like the Fool, the Lovers, and the Tower, introduced archetypal themes that resonated with seekers on a spiritual level. Yet, even as tarot grew in popularity, traditional playing cards remained a beloved tool for cartomancers, valued for their simplicity and accessibility. One particularly fascinating example of cartomancy comes from 18th century France, where a renowned cartomancer named Madame Lenormand gained fame for her uncanny accuracy. Among her many clients was a young nobleman struggling to find his place in a turbulent political climate. During a reading, Madame Lenormand laid out a spread that prominently featured the King of Diamonds and the Ace of Spades. She interpreted this combination as a sign that the nobleman's fortunes were about to change dramatically and that he would rise to a position of great influence. Encouraged by her prediction, the nobleman pursued a bold political strategy, eventually securing a high-ranking position at court. Madame Lenormand's reputation soared, and cartomancy became a sought-after practice among the elite. What makes cartomancy so enduring is its adaptability. Whether using a standard deck or the more elaborate tarot, it offers a way to explore the complexities of life through a framework of symbols and intuition. Yet, as we turn from the shuffling of cards to the carving of symbols, our next technique takes us into the world of runes. What secrets do these ancient symbols hold, and how do they guide the decisions of kings and warriors? The answers lie ahead as we delve into the ancient art of rune casting. The runes, carved into stone, wood, or bone, are more than just symbols. They are keys to understanding the unseen forces that shape our lives. This is the essence of runic divination, an ancient practice that has captivated seekers for centuries. Originating in the rugged landscapes of the Norse world, runes were not merely an alphabet but a sacred system of communication with the divine. For the Vikings, these symbols held immense power, offering guidance, protection, and insight into the mysteries of fate. The origins of runic divination trace back to the Elder Futhark, the oldest known runic alphabet, which consisted of 24 characters. Each rune carried its own name and meaning, representing concepts like strength, fertility, or transformation. The rune Fehu, for example, symbolized wealth and abundance, while Ura's embodied raw power and vitality. These symbols were more than just letters. They were seen as vessels of cosmic energy, capable of influencing the world around them. Norse mythology tells us that the god Odin himself discovered the runes after hanging from the world tree Yggdrasil for 9 days and nights, a sacrifice that granted him wisdom and the ability to wield their power. The practice of reading runes was both simple and profound. A rune reader, often a shaman or wise elder, would cast the runes onto a cloth or the ground, interpreting their positions and relationships to one another. The way the runes fell, whether upright or reversed, clustered or scattered, added layers of meaning to the reading. A single rune might offer a clear answer, while a spread of multiple runes could reveal a complex narrative about the seeker's life, challenges, and destiny. One particularly gripping tale comes from a Viking warrior preparing for a pivotal battle. Seeking guidance, he visited a renowned rune reader who cast the runes onto a deerskin. Among the symbols that appeared was Tiwaz, the rune of justice and victory, lying upright and surrounded by Raidho, the rune of journeys, and Algiz, the rune of protection. The rune reader interpreted this combination as a sign that the warrior's cause was just, his path clear, and his victory assured, but only if he remained vigilant and true to his values. Emboldened by this reading, the warrior led his men into battle with renewed confidence, ultimately securing a decisive victory that cemented the power of runic divination in Norse culture. What makes runic divination so compelling is its blend of simplicity and depth. The runes are accessible, yet their meanings are rich and layered, inviting seekers to explore the intricacies of their own lives. But as we turn from the carved symbols of the Norse, our next technique takes us to a practice that reads not in stone, but in skin. What secrets lie in the lines of your palm, and how did ancient cultures use these markings to unlock the mysteries of the future? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of palmistry. The lines on your palm are more than just creases, they're a map of your destiny, etched into your very skin. This is the essence of palmistry, an ancient art that has fascinated cultures for thousands of years. Originating in the mystical traditions of ancient India, palmistry, or chiromancy, spread across continents, evolving into a beloved practice in places like China, Egypt, and eventually Europe. It wasn't just about fortune-telling, it was a way to understand one's character, potential, and even the twists and turns of fate. At the heart of palmistry are the major lines that crisscross the palm: the lifeline, the heart line, the headline, and the fate line. Each of these lines tells a different story. The lifeline, curving around the base of the thumb, was believed to reveal not just the length of one's life, but also its vitality and major events. The heart line, running horizontally across the top of the palm, was tied to emotions, relationships, and even one's capacity for love. The headline just below it spoke of intellect, decision-making, and creativity, while the fate line, when present, was thought to indicate the influence of destiny on one's life. But palmistry wasn't just about the lines themselves. It was about how they interacted, their depth, and even the mounts of the palm, the fleshy areas beneath each finger. Each mount was associated with a planet and its corresponding traits, adding layers of meaning to the reading. For instance, a well-developed mount of Venus below the thumb might signify a passionate and creative nature, while a prominent mount of Mercury beneath the pinky could point to strong communication skills or a knack for business. One particularly intriguing story comes from a European traveler in the 17th century, who sought out a palmist before embarking on a long and perilous journey. The palmist, examining the traveler's hand, noted a deep, unbroken lifeline that extended far across the palm. Alongside it, the fate line showed a series of small branches, indicating unexpected opportunities along the way. The heart line, however, had a slight break, suggesting a significant emotional challenge during the journey. The palmist advised the traveler to stay resilient and open to change, predicting that while the journey would be arduous, it would ultimately lead to a life-altering discovery. True to the reading, the traveler faced both hardship and unexpected fortune, returning home with tales of adventure and a newfound sense of purpose. Palmistry's enduring appeal lies in its intimacy and immediacy. It's a practice that invites us to look inward, to explore the stories written in our own hands. But as we turn from the lines of the palm to the glimmering facets of crystals, our next technique takes us into a world where the earth's treasures become tools for divination. What secrets lie within these ancient stones, and how do they guide seekers in their quest for wisdom? The answers shimmer just ahead. Crystals have long been prized for their beauty and rarity, but for ancient diviners, they were far more than decorative objects. They were windows to the unseen. This is the essence of crystallomancy, the practice of gazing into crystals or polished glass to receive visions and divine messages. From medieval Europe to the mystic traditions of the East, crystallomancy has captivated seekers with its blend of artistry and intuition, offering a tangible way to connect with the spiritual realm. The practice of crystallomancy, often grouped under the broader term of scrying, centers on the idea that certain materials like clear quartz, polished obsidian, or even glass spheres can act as conduits for divine communication. Practitioners would often prepare for a session by cleansing the crystal, sometimes with salt water or incense, to clear it of any lingering energies. They would then enter a trance-like state, focusing intently on the crystal's surface, allowing their mind to drift into a space where symbols, images, or even full visions could emerge. In medieval Europe, crystallomancy was particularly popular among nobility and clergy, who sought guidance on matters of state, love, and even hidden treasures. One famous tale involves a crystallomancer named Agnes, who served in the court of a powerful duke. The duke, desperate to replenish his coffers after a costly war, turned to Agnes for help. Gazing into her crystal, she described a vision of a dark forest, a ruined chapel, and a chest buried beneath its altar. Following her directions, the duke's men discovered the long-lost treasure of a previous ruler, restoring his wealth and cementing Agnes's reputation as a master of crystallomancy. The process of crystallomancy wasn't just about seeing visions, it was about cultivating a deep state of receptivity. Practitioners often emphasize the importance of quieting the mind, letting go of preconceptions, and allowing the crystal to guide them. This meditative approach made crystallomancy not just a tool for divination, but also a practice of spiritual exploration, inviting seekers to look beyond the surface of their reality. As we step away from the shimmering depths of crystals, our next technique takes us into the natural world, where the behavior of animals has long been seen as a mirror of the divine. What messages can be found in the flight of birds, the movement of herds, or the calls of wild creatures? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of zoomancy. In the quiet moments of ancient Egypt, a cat's subtle movements could hold the key to divine wisdom. This is the world of ailuromancy, a divination practice centered on interpreting the behavior of cats. Revered as sacred creatures, cats were believed to be closely connected to the gods, their actions seen as messages from the divine. Whether it was the flick of a tail, the direction they walked, or even the way they gazed into the distance, every nuance of a cat's behavior was thought to carry profound significance. The Egyptians held cats in such high regard that harming one was considered a grave offense, punishable by law. This reverence extended to ailuromancy, where priests and diviners observed cats to gain insights into the future. A cat moving toward the rising sun might symbolize new beginnings or prosperity, while one retreating into the shadows could signal caution or impending challenges. Even the way a cat interacted with its environment, whether it chased a shadow or sat serenely, was interpreted as a sign of the god's will. One particularly compelling example of ailuromancy comes from a small village along the Nile. During a time of uncertainty, as the annual floodwaters began to recede, a local ailuromancer observed a cat repeatedly walking in a straight line toward the river. The diviner interpreted this behavior as a sign that the gods were pleased and that the coming harvest would be abundant. Encouraged by this prediction, the villagers worked tirelessly to prepare their fields, and true to the cat's guidance, they reaped a record-breaking yield that year. This event not only reinforced the villagers' faith in ailuromancy, but also highlighted the deep bond between the natural world and the spiritual realm. What makes ailuromancy so fascinating is its blend of observation and intuition. It's a practice that invites us to pay attention to the small, often overlooked details of the world around us. But as we leave the enigmatic gaze of cats behind, our next technique takes us into the lush realm of plants, where the secrets of the future are whispered through leaves, roots, and flowers. What mysteries do these green companions hold, and how did ancient cultures use them to divine the unseen? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of botaноmancy. In the lush gardens of ancient Greece, where olive trees whispered secrets to the wind and herbs perfumed the air, diviners turned to the natural world for guidance. This is botaноmancy, the art of divining the future through plants. Unlike other forms of divination, which relied on objects or rituals, botaноmancy drew its power directly from the living, breathing world of flora. Leaves, flowers, and even roots became vessels of prophecy, their forms and transformations offering glimpses into the unseen. The practice of botaноmancy often involved burning specific plants, with the resulting smoke and ash carefully observed for signs and omen. Bay leaves, sacred to Apollo, were a favorite choice, their fragrant smoke believed to carry messages from the gods. The way the leaves curled as they burned, the patterns formed by the ash, and even the color of the flames all held meaning. A steady, bright flame might signify divine favor, while erratic sparks or dark smoke could warn of trouble ahead. One particularly striking example of botaноmancy comes from the court of a Greek king who sought to know whether his queen would bear a son. A renowned botaноmancer was summoned, and she prepared a ritual fire using laurel leaves and myrtle. As the leaves burned, the smoke rose in a spiral before forming a distinct shape, a crescent, symbolizing fertility and new beginnings. The botaноmancer interpreted this as a clear sign that the queen would indeed give birth to a healthy child. Months later, the prediction proved true, and the royal family celebrated the arrival of their heir, cementing the reputation of botaноmancy as a powerful tool for divination. What makes botaноmancy so captivating is its connection to the natural world. It's a reminder that even the most ordinary plants can carry extraordinary meaning, their lives intertwined with our own in ways we're only beginning to understand. But as the smoke from the leaves dissipates, our journey takes us to a practice where the very elements of the sky become messengers of fate. What secrets do the winds and clouds hold, and how did ancient cultures interpret the patterns of the weather? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of aeromancy. The skies above ancient Rome weren't just a backdrop for daily life, they were a living, breathing oracle. This is the world of astromancy, the art of divining the future through the interpretation of weather patterns. For the Romans, every gust of wind, every flash of lightning, and every shift in the clouds was a potential message from the gods. Astromancy wasn't just about predicting the weather, it was about understanding the divine will behind it. In Roman culture, the weather was deeply tied to the gods. Jupiter, the king of the gods, was often associated with thunder and lightning, while Aeolus ruled the winds. Astromancers, skilled in reading these natural phenomena, served as intermediaries between the heavens and humanity. They observed the skies with meticulous attention, interpreting everything from the direction of the wind to the color of the clouds. A sudden storm might be seen as a warning of divine displeasure, while a gentle breeze could signal favor and protection. One of the most dramatic examples of astromancy comes from a pivotal moment in Roman history. During a naval battle against a formidable enemy, the Roman fleet found itself outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Desperate for guidance, the commander consulted an astromancer who observed the skies for signs. As the battle raged, the astromancer noticed a shift in the wind, a powerful gust blowing directly toward the enemy ships. Interpreting this as a sign of Neptune's favor, the astromancer urged the commander to press the attack. The Romans heeded the advice, and the wind shifted the tide of battle, propelling their ships to victory. This event not only cemented the reputation of astromancy, but also reinforced the belief that the gods themselves could intervene in human affairs. Astromancy's power lay in its immediacy and universality. The weather, after all, touches everyone, and its patterns were seen as a direct line to the divine. But as we turn from the winds and storms to the precision of mathematics, our next technique takes us into a world where numbers themselves hold the key to the future. What secrets can be unlocked by the patterns of digits and equations, and how did ancient cultures use numerology to navigate their destinies? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of arithmancy. Numbers are more than just tools for counting. They are the building blocks of the universe, carrying hidden meanings and profound insights. This is the essence of numerology, the ancient practice of interpreting numbers to uncover divine messages and predict outcomes. Rooted in the mystical traditions of ancient Babylon, numerology spread across the ancient world, finding a home in the philosophical heart of Greece and beyond. For numerologists, every number held a unique vibration, a cosmic signature that could reveal truths about the past, present, and future. The origins of numerology trace back to the Babylonians, who believed that numbers were a universal language, a code through which the gods communicated with humanity. They assigned specific meanings to numbers, often linking them to celestial bodies or divine forces. The number 3, for instance, was associated with harmony and the divine trinity, while 7 symbolized perfection and the 7 classical planets. These interpretations laid the foundation for what would become a sophisticated system of divination. When numerology reached ancient Greece, it was embraced by philosophers like Pythagoras, who saw numbers as the essence of all things. Pythagoras and his followers believed that the universe itself was governed by mathematical principles, and that by understanding these principles, one could unlock the secrets of existence. They developed a system where each number from 1 to 9 carried its own spiritual significance. The number 1 represented beginnings and individuality, while 9 symbolized completion and wisdom. By analyzing the numerical values of names, dates, and events, numerologists could offer guidance on everything from personal destiny to the outcomes of political decisions. One particularly fascinating story comes from the court of a Babylonian king who sought the advice of a numerologist before declaring war on a neighboring kingdom. The numerologist calculated the numerical value of the king's name and the date of the proposed battle, discovering that both were dominated by the number 4, which symbolized stability but also stagnation. The numerologist warned that while the king might achieve a temporary victory, the conflict would lead to prolonged hardship. Skeptical but intrigued, the king delayed his campaign and instead focused on strengthening his alliances. Years later, when war finally broke out, the king's kingdom emerged stronger and more unified thanks to the numerologist's foresight. Numerology's enduring appeal lies in its simplicity and universality. It's a practice that invites us to see the world through a new lens, where even the most ordinary numbers can hold extraordinary meaning. But as we step away from the world of numbers, our next technique takes us into the realm of shadows, where the interplay of light and darkness reveals secrets of the unseen. What mysteries lie in the dance of shadows, and how did ancient cultures use them to glimpse the future? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of sciency. Shadows have always danced on the edges of our perception, shifting, fleeting, and mysterious. But for ancient cultures, these ephemeral forms were far more than tricks of light. They were messages from the unseen, a language written in darkness. This is the world of sciency, the ancient art of shadow divination. In a practice that feels almost poetic, scientists believed that the shapes and movements of shadows could reveal hidden truths, offering glimpses into the future and insights into the present. The roots of sciency stretch back to ancient Persia, where shadows were seen as more than mere absence of light. They were reflections of the soul, echoes of the divine. In the flicker of candlelight or the dappled patterns of sunlight through trees, scientists would search for meaning. The way a shadow stretched, the shapes it formed, and even the speed at which it moved were all carefully observed and interpreted. A long, unbroken shadow might symbolize stability and longevity, while a fragmented or flickering one could suggest uncertainty or upheaval. One particularly vivid example of sciency comes from a Persian traveler preparing for a long and perilous journey across the desert. Seeking guidance, he visited a renowned sciencer who lit a single candle in a darkened room. As the flame flickered, the sciencer studied the traveler's shadow cast on the wall. The shadow appeared elongated and steady at first, but as the candle's flame wavered, the shadow's edges began to blur and shift. The sciencer interpreted this as a sign that while the journey would begin smoothly, the traveler would face unexpected challenges along the way. He advised the traveler to remain vigilant and adaptable, predicting that his ability to navigate these obstacles would determine his ultimate success. The traveler heeded the warning, and though the journey proved arduous, he returned safely, attributing his survival to the sciencer's foresight. What makes sciency so captivating is its simplicity and universality. Shadows are everywhere, yet they carry an air of mystery, a reminder that even the most ordinary phenomena can hold extraordinary meaning. But as the candle's flame flickers out and the shadows fade, our next technique takes us into a world where the future is shaped not by darkness, but by the malleable and transformative medium of wax. What secrets can be found in its melting and molding, and how did ancient cultures use it to divine the unknown? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of ceremancy. Imagine a flickering candle, its wax melting and pooling, taking on shapes that seem to whisper secrets of the future. This is ceremancy, the ancient art of divining the future through melted wax. In medieval Europe, where candlelight was a constant companion, ceremoncers turned this everyday substance into a powerful tool for uncovering hidden truths. By dripping wax into water and studying the forms it created, they believed they could decode messages from the divine, revealing everything from personal fortunes to looming threats. The process of ceremancy was both simple and mesmerizing. A ceremoncer would light a candle, allowing the wax to melt and drip into a bowl of water. As the wax hit the surface, it would cool and solidify, forming intricate shapes and patterns. These forms were then carefully examined for their symbolic meanings. A wax shape resembling a heart might signify love or emotional matters, while a jagged, fragmented piece could warn of conflict or betrayal. The fluidity of the wax and the randomness of its patterns made each reading unique, a blend of art and intuition. One particularly gripping tale of ceromancy comes from a small village in medieval France where a nobleman suspected treachery within his court. Seeking clarity, he consulted a ceromancer known for her uncanny accuracy. As the wax dripped into the water, it formed a cluster of sharp, angular shapes, one of which resembled a dagger pointing toward a rounded form like a shield. The ceromancer interpreted this as a clear warning a trusted advisor was plotting against the nobleman, using his position as a shield to conceal his intentions. Acting on this insight, the nobleman uncovered the conspiracy just in time, averting disaster and solidifying ceromancy's reputation as a reliable method for uncovering hidden dangers. What makes ceromancy so fascinating is its blend of simplicity and depth. It transforms an ordinary material into a canvas for prophecy, reminding us that meaning can be found in even the most unexpected places. But as the wax cools and hardens, our journey takes us to a practice where the ever-changing shapes of the sky become the oracle. What messages do the clouds hold, and how did ancient cultures interpret their fleeting forms? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of nephalomancy. High above the ancient temples of Greece, the clouds weren't just a part of the landscape, they were a canvas of prophecy. This is nephalomancy, the ancient art of interpreting clouds to divine the future. For the Greeks, who saw the heavens as the realm of the gods, the ever-shifting shapes of clouds carried messages from the divine. Whether it was a wispy cirrus or a towering cumulonimbus, each formation held meaning, offering insights into the will of the gods and the fate of mortals below. Nephalomancy was deeply rooted in the belief that the gods communicated through nature, and the skies were their most direct medium. Practitioners, often priests or oracles, would spend hours observing the clouds, noting their shapes, movements, and colors. A cloud that resembled an eagle, for example, might symbolize victory or divine favor, while one that took on the form of a serpent could warn of betrayal or danger. The speed at which clouds moved was also significant. Swiftly shifting clouds might indicate sudden change, while slow, lingering formations could suggest stability or stagnation. One particularly striking example of nephalomancy comes from the island of Delos, where a nephalomancer named Lycidas was renowned for his accuracy. One day, as a merchant fleet prepared to set sail, Lycidas observed a cluster of dark, heavy clouds gathering on the horizon. Among them, he noticed a formation resembling a ship being tossed by waves. Interpreting this as an omen of an impending storm, Lycidas warned the fleet's captain to delay their departure. The captain, skeptical but cautious, decided to wait. Just hours later, a fierce storm swept across the sea, sparing the fleet from disaster. This event not only solidified Lycidas's reputation, but also highlighted the practical value of nephalomancy in a world where nature could be both a friend and a foe. What makes nephalomancy so captivating is its blend of artistry and intuition. It's a practice that invites us to look up, to see the world not just as it is but as it might be, a reminder that the heavens are always speaking, if only we know how to listen. But as the clouds drift away, our next journey takes us to a practice that grounds us quite literally in the Earth's most humble yet essential mineral. What secrets lie in the grains of salt, and how did ancient cultures use them to uncover the mysteries of fate? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of halomancy. Salt, a humble yet indispensable mineral, has long been more than just a seasoning. It's been a symbol of purity, preservation, and divine connection. This is the world of halomancy, the ancient practice of using salt for divination. In cultures where salt was as precious as gold, its patterns and forms were believed to hold secrets from the gods, offering insights into the future and guidance for the present. The roots of halomancy stretch back to ancient Mesopotamia, where salt was considered sacred, a substance that could purify and protect. Halomancers would scatter salt across a flat surface, often a smooth stone or a ceremonial tray, and carefully observed the patterns it formed. The way the grains clustered, the shapes they created, and even the direction in which they spread were all interpreted as messages from the divine. A smooth, even spread might signify harmony and prosperity, while jagged or fragmented patterns could warn of conflict or hardship. One particularly vivid example of allomancy comes from a Mesopotamian village facing an uncertain harvest. The village elder, a skilled allomancer, performed a ritual in which she scattered salt across a polished stone altar. As the grains settled, they formed a series of circular patterns with a central cluster resembling a sheaf of wheat. The allomancer interpreted this as a sign of abundance, predicting that the harvest would not only be bountiful but that the crops would be of exceptional quality. Encouraged by this prophecy, the villagers worked tirelessly to prepare their fields. When the harvest came, it exceeded all expectations, the grains plump and golden, just as the salt had foretold. This event cemented allomancy's reputation as a powerful tool for divination, a practice that turned the ordinary into the extraordinary. What makes allomancy so captivating is its simplicity and universality. Salt is a substance that touches every culture and every table, yet its patterns carry an air of mystery, a reminder that even the most familiar elements can hold profound meaning. But as the grains of salt settle, our next journey takes us to a practice where the voices of the wild become the oracle. What secrets can be found in the calls of animals, and how did ancient cultures use these sounds to unlock the mysteries of fate? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of zoomancy. In the bustling streets of ancient Rome, where the murmur of crowds mingled with the hum of daily life, there was another sound that captured the attention of diviners: the calls of birds. This is ornithomancy, the ancient practice of interpreting bird calls as omens. For the Romans, birds weren't just creatures of the sky. They were messengers of the gods, their songs and flights carrying divine warnings and blessings. The art of ornithomancy was a blend of keen observation and deep spiritual insight, turning the natural world into a living oracle. The Romans believed that the gods used birds as intermediaries, their calls and behaviors offering clues about the future. Specific birds held particular significance. The raven, with its deep, resonant call, was often seen as a harbinger of change, while the owl's haunting cry was linked to wisdom and at times foreboding. The timing of these calls was just as important as their nature. A bird singing at dawn might herald a new beginning, while one calling at dusk could signal the end of an era. Even the direction from which the call came carried meaning, with calls from the east often seen as favorable and those from the west as cautionary. One particularly striking example of ornithomancy comes from the reign of Emperor Augustus. Facing political unrest and uncertainty about his rule, Augustus consulted an ornithomancer who observed a flock of ravens gathering in the forum. Among their calls, the ornithomancer noted a distinct pattern, a series of short, sharp cries followed by a long, mournful note. Interpreting this as a sign of impending upheaval but eventual stability, the ornithomancer advised Augustus to consolidate his alliances and prepare for a period of transition. Augustus heeded the warning, strengthening his political ties and ultimately securing his position as one of Rome's most influential leaders. What makes ornithomancy so captivating is its connection to the natural world. It's a practice that invites us to listen, not just to the sounds around us, but to the deeper messages they might carry. But as we turn from the songs of birds to the elements of fire and water, our next technique takes us into a realm where these two forces collide in a dance of transformation. What secrets lie in their interplay, and how did ancient cultures use them to divine the future? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of hydromancy. In the dimly lit chambers of ancient Egypt, where shadows danced along the walls and the air was thick with the scent of burning oils, a flickering flame held more than light, it held secrets. This is lichnomancy, the ancient art of divining the future through the behavior of lamp flames. For the Egyptians, fire wasn't just a source of illumination. It was a living entity, a messenger between the earthly and the divine. By studying the way a flame burned, its color, height, and movement, lichnomancers believed they could uncover hidden truths and divine the will of the gods. The practice of lichnomancy was deeply ritualistic, often tied to offerings and prayers. A lichnomancer would light an oil lamp, typically filled with sacred oils like myrrh or frankincense, and carefully observe the flame. The color of the flame was one of the first indicators. A bright, steady flame often signaled clarity and divine favor, while a dim or flickering one might suggest uncertainty or impending challenges. The height of the flame also carried meaning. A tall, robust flame could signify vitality and success, whereas a short, weak one might warn of obstacles or stagnation. But it wasn't just the flame's appearance that mattered. Its movements were equally significant. A flame that flickered rapidly or seemed to dance might indicate agitation or change, while one that burned steadily could suggest stability and peace. The direction in which the flame leaned was also interpreted. A flame leaning toward the north might symbolize protection, while one leaning south could imply a need for caution. One particularly captivating story of lichnomancy comes from the court of an Egyptian pharaoh who sought guidance during a time of political intrigue. A trusted lichnomancer was called to perform a ritual. As the lamp's flame burned, it suddenly split into two distinct flames, one burning brighter than the other. The lichnomancer interpreted this as a sign of division within the pharaoh's inner circle, with one faction growing stronger while the other waned. Acting on this insight, the pharaoh uncovered a plot against his rule, averting disaster and reinforcing the power of lichnomancy as a tool for uncovering hidden truths. What makes lichnomancy so intriguing is its blend of simplicity and depth. It transforms an everyday object, a lamp, into a conduit for divine communication, reminding us that meaning can be found in the most ordinary of places. But as the flame flickers and fades, our next journey takes us from the realm of fire to the earth itself, where the tracks of animals become a map of fate. What secrets lie in the footprints of creatures, and how did ancient cultures use them to navigate the unknown? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of ichneumance. In the vast, untamed wilderness of North America, where every rustle of leaves and crack of a twig told a story, the earth itself became a canvas for prophecy. This is the world of ichneumance, the ancient art of interpreting animal footprints as a means of divination. For Native American tribes, the natural world was alive with meaning, and the tracks left by animals were more than just signs of their presence. They were messages from the spirits, offering guidance, warnings, and insight into the future. Ichneumance was deeply rooted in the belief that animals, as part of the natural world, were closely connected to the spiritual realm. The direction in which an animal's tracks pointed, the type of animal that left them, and even the depth and clarity of the prints all carried significance. A set of deer tracks leading toward a water source might symbolize abundance and renewal, while the sharp, clawed prints of a predator could signal danger or conflict. The act of reading these tracks required not just keen observation, but also a deep understanding of the animal's behavior and the environment. Among the Lakota Sioux, ichneumance was often used to guide hunting parties. Before setting out, a skilled ichneumance would study the tracks near the camp, searching for patterns or signs that could predict the success of the hunt. One particularly memorable example comes from a Lakota hunting party preparing to track a herd of bison. The ichneumance noticed a trail of bison prints leading east, with several smaller, fainter prints crossing them at an angle. Interpreting this as a sign that the herd had split, the Ichneumon advised the hunters to follow the smaller trail, predicting that it would lead to a smaller, more manageable group. The hunters heeded the advice, and the decision proved fruitful, yielding enough meat to sustain the tribe for weeks. What makes ichneumon so compelling is its connection to the land and the creatures that inhabit it. It's a practice that invites us to look closely, to see the world not just as a backdrop but as a living, breathing guide. But as we leave the imprints of the earth behind, our next journey takes us to the skies, where the whispers of feathers carry messages from the divine. What secrets do these delicate plumes hold, and how did ancient cultures use them to unlock the mysteries of fate? The answers flutter just ahead. Feathers, delicate and fleeting, have long been more than just remnants of birds. They've been seen as whispers from the divine, carrying messages from the heavens. This is the essence of plumomancy, the ancient practice of interpreting feathers for divination. In cultures where the natural world was intimately tied to the spiritual realm, feathers were revered as sacred objects, their appearance often seen as a direct communication from the gods or spirits. For the ancient Celts in particular, feathers held a profound significance, their color, size, and even the direction in which they fell believed to reveal hidden truths about the future. The Celts, with their deep connection to nature, saw feathers as symbols of freedom, wisdom, and transcendence. Birds, after all, could traverse the skies, a place beyond the reach of humans, and their feathers were thought to carry the essence of that otherworldly realm. Plumomancers, the practitioners of this art, would carefully examine any feather they encountered, interpreting its characteristics as omens or guidance. A white feather, for instance, might signify purity, peace, or divine protection, while a black one could warn of challenges or transformation. The size of the feather mattered too. Larger feathers were often seen as carrying more significant messages, while smaller ones might indicate subtler shifts in fortune. Even the direction in which the feather fell or was found held meaning. A feather drifting from the east might symbolize new beginnings, while one from the west could suggest endings or reflection. One particularly vivid tale of plumomancy comes from a Celtic traveler preparing for a long and uncertain journey. As he packed his belongings, a single feather, strikingly blue and larger than any he had seen before, drifted down from the sky and landed at his feet. Intrigued, he sought out a local plumomancer to interpret its meaning. The diviner, examining the feather, noted its vibrant color and the way it had landed pointing toward the north. She interpreted this as a sign that the traveler's journey would be guided by wisdom and intuition, and that he would find unexpected allies along the way. Encouraged by this prophecy, the traveler set out with confidence. True to the feather's message, his journey was marked by serendipitous encounters and safe passage, reinforcing the belief in plumomancy as a powerful tool for guidance. What makes plumomancy so captivating is its simplicity and universality. Feathers are everywhere, yet they carry an air of mystery, a reminder that even the most ordinary objects can hold extraordinary meaning. But as we leave the ethereal whispers of feathers behind, our next journey takes us to a practice where the future is tied not to the skies, but to the intricate loops and twists of knots. What secrets can be found in their patterns, and how did ancient cultures use them to unlock the mysteries of fate? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of knot divination. In the ancient deserts of Mesopotamia, where the wind carried whispers of the divine, warriors and kings turned to the flight of arrows not just for battle but for guidance. This is bilomancy, the ancient art of divination through arrows. Unlike the precision of archery in war, bilomancy wasn't about hitting a target. It was about letting the arrows fall where they may, their paths and positions revealing the will of the gods. For the Babylonians, arrows were more than weapons. They were instruments of fate, their flight a language spoken by the heavens. The practice of bilomancy was steeped in ritual. A bilomancer, often a priest or a skilled diviner, would inscribe sacred symbols or prayers on the arrows before casting them. The act of casting was deliberate and ceremonial, with the Belomancer often invoking the gods for clarity. Once the arrows were released, their landing positions were carefully studied. The direction in which an arrow pointed, the angle at which it fell, and even the way it interacted with the ground all carried meaning. An arrow pointing north might symbolize a journey or change, while one pointing south could suggest stability or reflection. If two arrows crossed, it was often seen as a sign of conflict or alliance, depending on the context. One particularly striking example of belomancy comes from the court of a Babylonian king facing a critical decision about whether to form an alliance with a neighboring kingdom. Seeking divine guidance, the king summoned a renowned belomancer who prepared 3 arrows, each inscribed with the names of the gods. As the arrows were cast, one landed pointing directly toward the neighboring kingdom, while the other 2 crossed each other, forming a distinct X. The belomancer interpreted this as a sign that the alliance would be beneficial, but would require careful negotiation and mutual respect. The king heeded the advice, and the resulting alliance brought peace and prosperity to both realms, solidifying belomancy's reputation as a trusted method for decision-making. What makes belomancy so intriguing is its blend of chance and intention. The arrows once cast were beyond human control, yet their patterns held profound meaning. It's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful insights come from letting go and allowing the divine to guide the way. As we leave the flight of arrows behind, our next journey takes us to a practice where the future is tied not to the skies, but to the intricate loops and twists of knots. What secrets lie in their patterns, and how did ancient cultures use them to unlock the mysteries of fate? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of knot divination. In the bustling agora of ancient Greece, where merchants bartered and philosophers debated, the air was thick not just with the scent of olives and herbs, but with the hum of words, some spoken, some overheard. For the Greeks, these fleeting fragments of conversation weren't just idle chatter, they were potential messages from the gods. This is kledonomancy, the ancient art of divining the future through overheard words. In a world where the gods were believed to speak through the everyday, a random phrase or an unexpected comment could carry profound significance, offering guidance, warnings, or glimpses into what lay ahead. Kledonomancy was rooted in the belief that the divine could communicate through the ordinary, weaving omens into the fabric of daily life. The practice required a keen ear and an open mind, as kledonomancers listened not just for what was said, but how and when it was said. The context of the words mattered deeply. A phrase spoken in anger might carry a different meaning than one uttered in jest. Timing was equally crucial. Words overheard at sunrise, for instance, were often seen as messages of new beginnings, while those caught at dusk might signify endings or reflection. Even the tone of the speaker could influence the interpretation, with cheerful words signaling favor and harsh ones warning of challenges. One particularly striking example of kledonomancy comes from a traveler in ancient Athens. Preparing to embark on a long and uncertain journey, the traveler paused in the marketplace, overhearing a merchant's offhand remark, "The wind favors the bold." Intrigued, he sought out a kledonomancer to interpret the phrase. The diviner, considering the context and timing, saw the remark as a clear omen, a sign that the traveler's journey would be successful if he acted with courage and decisiveness. Emboldened by this insight, the traveler set out, his confidence bolstered by the belief that the gods were guiding his path. True to the omen, his journey was marked by favorable winds and serendipitous encounters, reinforcing the power of kledonomancy as a tool for navigating life's uncertainties. What makes kledonomancy so fascinating is its accessibility. It's a practice that transforms the mundane into the mystical, reminding us that the divine can speak through the most unexpected channels. But as we leave the realm of spoken words behind, our next journey takes us to a practice where the future is tied not to language, but to the intricate loops and twists of knots. What secrets lie in their patterns, and how did ancient cultures use them to unlock the mysteries of fate? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of knot divination. Imagine a time when even the most personal parts of your body, your nails, could reveal secrets about your health, your future, and even your fate. This is onochomancy, the ancient art of nail divination. While it might sound unusual today, this practice was taken seriously in medieval Europe, where the state of one's nails was believed to be a reflection of their inner world. From the color and texture to the shape and growth patterns, every detail of the nail was scrutinized for clues, offering insights that ranged from the mundane to the mystical. Onochomancy was rooted in the belief that the body was a microcosm of the universe, with each part carrying its own symbolic meaning. Nails, as extensions of the fingertips, were seen as particularly significant. They were thought to be connected to the nervous system and, by extension, to the soul. Practitioners of onochomancy, often healers or wise women, would carefully examine nail clippings or the nails of living individuals, searching for signs of imbalance or impending change. Discolored nails, for instance, might indicate illness or emotional distress, while ridges or bumps could suggest upcoming challenges or opportunities. Even the way nails grew, slowly or quickly, was interpreted as a sign of vitality or stagnation. One particularly fascinating example comes from a medieval village where a local onochomancer was called to examine the nails of a young noblewoman suffering from unexplained fatigue. The onochomancer noticed that the woman's nails had developed a series of faint, horizontal lines, a condition now known as Bow's lines, often linked to periods of stress or illness. Beyond this, the nails also showed a bluish tint at the base, which the onochomancer interpreted as a sign of poor circulation and an underlying health issue. Acting on this insight, the noblewoman sought out a physician who discovered she was suffering from a previously undiagnosed heart condition. The early detection, credited to the onochomancer's skill, not only saved her life but also reinforced the belief in nail divination as a legitimate tool for uncovering hidden truth. What makes onochomancy so intriguing is its blend of the practical and the mystical. It's a practice that reminds us how closely our physical bodies are tied to our inner lives and how even the smallest details can carry profound meaning. But as we leave the intimate world of nail divination behind, our next journey takes us into a practice where the future is tied not to the body, but to the intricate loops and twists of knots. What secrets lie in their patterns, and how did ancient cultures use them to unlock the mysteries of fate? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of knot divination. In the swirling sands of ancient Persia, where the horizon seemed to stretch endlessly and the air shimmered with heat, there was a practice that turned the very act of spinning into a gateway to the divine. This is gyromancy, the ancient art of interpreting spinning movements for divination. Unlike other methods that relied on external tools or natural phenomena, gyromancy was deeply personal, a practice that harnessed the power of movement, dizziness, and altered states of consciousness to unlock hidden truths. For the Persians, spinning wasn't just a physical act, it was a ritual, a way to transcend the ordinary and connect with the unseen. The process of gyromancy was both simple and profound. A practitioner, often a priest or a skilled diviner, would spin in circles, sometimes slowly, sometimes rapidly, until they reached a state of dizziness or even collapse. In this altered state, the gyromancer would experience visions or hear voices, which were interpreted as messages from the gods. The direction of the spin carried meaning too. Spinning clockwise might symbolize creation or forward movement, while counterclockwise could suggest release or reflection. The speed of the spin also played a role, with faster rotations often linked to urgency or intensity in the messages received. One particularly captivating story of gyromancy comes from the court of a Persian king who sought guidance on a proposed marriage alliance. The king, uncertain whether the union would bring prosperity or strife, summoned a renowned gyromancer to perform the ritual. As the diviner spun, the court watched in silence, the tension palpable. When the gyromancer finally collapsed, they described a vivid vision, a golden thread weaving through two intertwined rings surrounded by a field of blooming flowers. The gyromancer interpreted this as a sign of a harmonious and fruitful union, one that would bring not only political stability but also great joy to both families. Encouraged by this prophecy, the king proceeded with the marriage, and the alliance proved to be one of the most prosperous in the kingdom's history. What makes gyromancy so fascinating is its visceral nature. It's a practice that literally turns the world upside down, inviting us to see reality from a new perspective. But as the spinning slows and the world comes back into focus, our next technique takes us to something more grounded yet no less mysterious. What secrets lie in the intricate loops and twists of knots, and how did ancient cultures use them to unlock the mysteries of fate? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of knot divination. In the bustling markets of ancient Rome, where the air was thick with the scent of spices and the hum of bartering, there was a practice that turned a simple breakfast staple into a powerful tool for divination. Enter oomancy, the ancient art of interpreting eggs to uncover the secrets of the future. For the Romans, eggs weren't just a source of nourishment, they were symbols of life, fertility, and potential, their delicate shells holding clues to what lay ahead. By cracking an egg and carefully examining its contents, oomancers believed they could decode messages from the gods, offering insights into everything from personal fortunes to the fate of entire communities. The process of oomancy was as precise as it was fascinating. An oomancer would begin by selecting an egg, often one that had been laid under specific conditions or during a significant celestial event. The egg was then cracked into a bowl of water or onto a flat surface, allowing the yolk and white to spread naturally. The way the contents separated, the shapes they formed, and even the way they interacted with the surrounding environment were all studied for their symbolic meanings. A yolk that remained intact and centered might signify stability and prosperity, while one that broke apart could suggest upheaval or loss. The white, with its delicate tendrils, was often seen as a representation of the seeker's emotional or spiritual state, its clarity or cloudiness offering further clues. One particularly memorable example of oomancy comes from a Roman farming community preparing for the spring planting season. Seeking guidance on whether the year's harvest would be bountiful, the village elder consulted a renowned oomancer. After cracking an egg into a shallow dish, the oomancer observed the yolk forming a distinct spiral, surrounded by a ring of clear, unbroken white. Interpreting this as a sign of abundance and divine favor, the oomancer predicted that the harvest would not only be plentiful but that the crops would thrive under favorable conditions. Encouraged by this prophecy, the villagers worked diligently to prepare their fields, and when the harvest came, it exceeded all expectations, reinforcing the belief in oomancy as a reliable method for divination. What makes oomancy so intriguing is its blend of simplicity and depth. It transforms an everyday object into a canvas for prophecy, reminding us that meaning can be found in even the most ordinary of places. But as the yolk and white settle into their final patterns, our next journey takes us to a practice where the future is tied not to the fragility of eggs, but to the intricate loops and twists of knots. What secrets lie in their patterns, and how did ancient cultures use them to unlock the mysteries of fate? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of knot divination. In the dense forests of medieval Europe, where the whisper of leaves and the creak of ancient trees filled the air, there was a practice that turned fallen branches into messengers of the divine. This is xylomancy, the ancient art of interpreting wood for divination. For those who lived close to the land, wood was more than just fuel or building material. It was a living, breathing entity, its form and texture carrying secrets from the natural world. Xylomancers, skilled in reading these signs, believed that the shape, arrangement, and even the feel of fallen branches could reveal hidden truths about the future, offering guidance and insight to those who knew how to listen. The practice of xylomancy was deeply rooted in observation and intuition. A xylomancer would wander through the forest, searching for branches or pieces of wood that seemed to stand out, perhaps for their unusual shape, their texture, or the way they had fallen. The direction in which a branch pointed, the way it lay across the ground, or even the patterns in its bark were all carefully examined for their symbolic meanings. A straight, unbroken branch might signify clarity and purpose, while a twisted or gnarled one could suggest challenges or complexity. The arrangement of multiple branches could also tell a story, with intersecting pieces indicating crossroads or decisions, and scattered ones hinting at chaos or opportunity. One particularly compelling tale of xylomancy comes from a village nestled deep in the Black Forest. Facing a harsh winter and dwindling supplies, the villagers turned to a local xylomancer for guidance. As she walked through the woods, she noticed a cluster of branches forming a distinct arrow-like shape, pointing toward a part of the forest the villagers rarely ventured into. Interpreting this as a sign, she led the villagers in that direction, where they discovered a hidden grove filled with edible plants and game. This discovery not only saved the village from starvation, but also reinforced the belief in xylomancy as a powerful tool for navigating life's uncertainties. What makes xylomancy so fascinating is its connection to the natural world. It's a practice that invites us to see the forest not just as a collection of trees, but as a living oracle, its every branch and knot carrying a message waiting to be understood. But as we step away from the whispering woods, our next technique takes us into a realm where the future is tied not to the solidity of wood, but to the intricate loops and twists of knots. What secrets lie in their patterns, and how did ancient cultures use them to unlock the mysteries of fate? The answers await as we explore the ancient art of knot divination. In the vast and storied history of ancient China, where emperors ruled and dynasties rose and fell, there was a practice that turned the bones of animals into a map of destiny. This is spatulamancy, the ancient art of interpreting shoulder blades for divination. For the Chinese, bones were more than just remnants of life, they were sacred objects, their cracks and markings believed to hold messages from the heavens. Whether it was the shoulder blade of a sheep, a pig, or even an ox, these bones became tools for uncovering the will of the gods, offering insights into everything from harvests to the outcomes of wars. Spatulamancy was a meticulous practice, deeply rooted in the belief that the natural world was a reflection of the divine. To perform the ritual, a spatulamancer would first prepare the bone, often by cleaning it and inscribing it with symbols or questions. The bone was then heated, either by fire or a hot poker, until cracks began to form. These cracks, known as oracle cracks, were carefully examined for their patterns and shapes. A long, straight crack might signify clarity and stability, while a jagged or branching one could suggest conflict or change. The position of the cracks on the bone also mattered. Those near the edges might indicate external influences, while those closer to the center could point to personal or internal matters. One particularly compelling example of spatulamancy comes from the court of a Chinese general preparing for a pivotal battle. Facing an enemy with superior numbers, the general sought guidance from a renowned spatulamancer. The diviner heated the shoulder blade of a sheep, carefully observing the cracks that formed. Among them was a straight, unbroken line running diagonally across the bone, with smaller cracks branching outward like the roots of a tree. The spatulamonster interpreted this as a sign that the general strategy should be direct and decisive, but with flexibility to adapt to unforeseen challenges. Following this advice, the general led his troops to a surprising victory, outmaneuvering the enemy and securing his place in history. What makes spatulamancy so fascinating is its blend of the tangible and the mystical. It transforms something as ordinary as a bone into a portal for divine communication, reminding us that the sacred can be found in the most unexpected places. But as we leave the world of bones behind, our next journey takes us to a practice where the future is tied not to the solidity of bone, but to the intricate loops and twists of knots. What secrets lie in their patterns, and how did ancient cultures use them to unlock the mysteries of fate? The answers begin to unravel in the next chapter of our exploration. In the heart of medieval Europe, where the aroma of freshly baked bread mingled with the sharp tang of aging cheese, there was a practice that turned this humble dairy product into a portal to the divine. This is tyromancy, the ancient art of divining the future through cheese. While it might sound unusual today, cheese was once revered as more than just a staple food. It was a sacred substance, its textures and patterns believed to hold messages from the gods. Tyromancers, skilled in this unique form of divination, saw cheese as a canvas, its cracks, holes, and colors revealing hidden truths about the future. The practice of tyromancy was deeply rooted in the belief that the natural world was imbued with spiritual significance. Cheese, as a product of both human labor and natural processes, was thought to embody a special connection between the earthly and the divine. To perform tyromancy, a practitioner would carefully examine a piece of cheese, often one that had been aged or left to develop distinct characteristics. The size and shape of the holes, the distribution of mold, and even the way the cheese crumbled were all scrutinized for their symbolic meanings. A cheese with large, evenly spaced holes might suggest abundance and opportunity, while one riddled with small, irregular cracks could warn of challenges or instability. The color of the cheese also played a role, with golden hues often seen as a sign of prosperity and darker patches indicating caution or mystery. One particularly captivating tale of tyromancy comes from a small village in France, where a traveler sought guidance before embarking on a perilous journey through the mountains. The village tyromancer, renowned for her accuracy, prepared a wheel of aged cheese, studying its surface under the flickering light of a candle. As she examined the cheese, she noticed a series of cracks radiating outward from a central point, resembling the spokes of a wheel. Interpreting this as a sign of many paths and choices ahead, she advised the traveler to remain open to unexpected opportunities and to trust his instincts. The traveler heeded her counsel, and his journey, though fraught with challenges, led him to discover a new trade route that brought wealth and prosperity to his village. What makes tyromancy so intriguing is its blend of the familiar and the mystical. It transforms something as ordinary as cheese into a tool for prophecy, reminding us that the sacred can be found in the most unexpected places. But as we leave the world of cheese behind, our next technique takes us into a realm where the future is tied not to the textures of food, but to the intricate loops and twists of knots. What secrets lie in their patterns, and how did ancient cultures use them to unlock the mysteries of fate? The answers begin to unravel as we explore the ancient art of knot divination. In the sun-drenched courtyards of ancient Greece, where the scent of freshly ground wheat mingled with the murmurs of prayer, flour was more than just a kitchen staple, it was a medium for prophecy. This is alleuromancy, the ancient art of divination through flour. For the Greeks, flour wasn't just the foundation of bread, it was a sacred substance, its fine grains believed to carry messages from the gods. By scattering flower and interpreting its patterns, alluromancers unlocked hidden truths, offering guidance and insight to those who sought answers. The practice of alluromancy was deeply ritualistic, often tied to festivals or moments of great uncertainty. A practitioner would begin by preparing a smooth surface, sometimes a marble slab or a wooden table, and then scatter the flower in a deliberate manner. The way the grains fell, the shapes they formed, and even the way they clung to the surface were all carefully studied for their symbolic meanings. A smooth, even spread might signify harmony and peace, while clumps or irregular patterns could suggest conflict or upheaval. The direction in which the flower scattered also carried significance. Flower drifting toward the east might symbolize new beginnings, while movement to the west could indicate endings or reflection. One particularly fascinating example of alluromancy comes from the city of Athens, where a noblewoman sought clarity about her husband's loyalty. She consulted an alluromancer who performed the ritual in the flickering light of an oil lamp. As the flower was scattered, it formed a distinct pattern resembling a chain, with a single, unbroken line running through it. The alluromancer interpreted this as a sign of fidelity and unity, assuring the noblewoman that her husband's affections were true. Relieved and emboldened by this insight, the noblewoman confronted a rival who had been spreading rumors, ultimately restoring harmony to her household. Alluromancy's power lay in its simplicity and accessibility. It transformed an everyday substance into a canvas for prophecy, reminding us that meaning can be found in even the most ordinary of materials. But as the last grains of flour settle, our next journey takes us to a practice where the future is tied not to the fine dust of wheat, but to the intricate loops and twists of knots. What secrets lie in their patterns, and how did ancient cultures use them to unlock the mysteries of fate? The answers begin to unravel in the next chapter of our exploration. In the shadowed corners of ancient Rome, where whispers of political intrigue mingled with the soft rustle of tiny paws, a peculiar form of divination took root: maimancy, the art of interpreting the behavior of mice. To the Romans, mice were more than mere pests. They were messengers of the gods, their movements and sounds believed to carry omens of great significance. Maimancy was a practice steeped in both superstition and observation, where the seemingly random actions of these small creatures were scrutinized for hidden meaning. Mice, with their ability to thrive in both the wild and human settlements, were seen as creatures that straddled the boundary between the natural and the divine. Maimancers, the practitioners of this art, believed that the appearance of mice, their patterns of movement, and even the sounds they made could reveal insights into the future. A mouse scurrying to the right might signify good fortune, while one darting to the left could warn of impending misfortune. The direction in which mice entered or exited a building was also carefully noted, as it was thought to indicate the flow of luck or misfortune. Even the timing of their activity, whether they appeared during the day or at night, carried meaning, with nocturnal visits often seen as more ominous. One particularly striking example of maimancy comes from the tumultuous reign of Emperor Nero. As Rome teetered on the brink of political upheaval, a maimancer observed an unusual pattern of mouse behavior within the imperial palace. Mice were seen gathering in large numbers in the east wing, their movements unusually frantic, while the west wing remained eerily quiet. Interpreting this as a sign of instability in the eastern provinces and a coming shift in power, the maimancer warned Nero's advisors to strengthen their alliances and prepare for rebellion. Though the emperor initially dismissed the warning, the prediction proved eerily accurate, as uprisings in the east soon destabilized his rule, leading to his eventual downfall. Maimancy's power lay in its ability to find meaning in the mundane, to see the divine in the everyday. It was a reminder that even the smallest creatures could carry profound messages if one knew how to listen. But as we leave the scurrying world of mice behind, our next technique takes us into a realm where the future is tied not to the movements of animals, but to the intricate loops and twists of knots. What secrets lie in their patterns, and how did ancient cultures use them to unlock the mysteries of fate? The answers begin to unravel in the next chapter of our exploration. In the quiet stillness of ancient Egypt, where the Nile's waters flowed and the sun blazed overhead, there was a practice that turned the remnants of fire into a sacred oracle. This is tephromancy, the ancient art of interpreting ashes for divination. For the Egyptians, fire was more than a source of warmth or light. It was a transformative force, and its ashes were seen as a bridge between the earthly and the divine. Tephromancers, skilled in this subtle art, believed that the patterns, textures, and even the faintest traces left behind by burnt offerings could reveal profound truths about the future. The process of tephromancy was deeply ritualistic, often tied to offerings made to the gods. A tephromancer would carefully collect the ashes from a sacred fire, spreading them across a smooth surface or into a ceremonial bowl. The way the ashes settled, whether they formed smooth layers, scattered unevenly, or clung together in clumps, was believed to carry specific meanings. A fine, even layer of ash might signify harmony and divine favor, while jagged or fragmented patterns could suggest challenges or upheaval. The color of the ashes also played a role. Darker, charred remnants often symbolized endings or transformation, while lighter, powdery ashes were seen as signs of renewal and hope. One particularly vivid example of tephromancy comes from a small village along the Nile, where a tephromancer was called upon to predict the outcome of the coming harvest. As the villagers gathered around a sacred fire, the tephromancer carefully observed the ashes left behind. Among the fine, gray powder, a distinct spiral pattern emerged, surrounded by faint, radiating lines. The tephromancer interpreted this as a sign of abundance and divine blessing, predicting that the harvest would not only be plentiful but that the crops would thrive under favorable conditions. Encouraged by this prophecy, the villagers worked tirelessly to prepare their fields, and when the harvest came, it exceeded all expectations, reinforcing the belief in tephromancy as a powerful tool for divination. What makes tephromancy so intriguing is its connection to transformation. Ashes, after all, are the remnants of something that has been consumed by fire, a symbol of change and renewal. They remind us that even after destruction, there is potential for new beginnings. And as we leave the world of ashes behind, we come to the end of our journey through these 40 ancient divination techniques. Each method, from the flight of birds to the patterns in ashes, reflects humanity's enduring desire to understand the unknown, to find meaning in the world around us, and to connect with something greater than ourselves. These practices, though rooted in the past, continue to inspire us today, offering a glimpse into the rich tapestry of human history and the timeless quest for wisdom. Whether through the stars, the earth, or the whispers of nature, these ancient techniques remind us that the future is not just something to be predicted, but something to be shaped with curiosity, courage, and an open heart. The echoes of ancient divination resonate far beyond the temples, forests, and fires where they first took root. These 40 techniques, each a testament to humanity's enduring quest for understanding, have left an indelible mark on cultures across the globe. They were more than rituals, they were frameworks for navigating the uncertainties of life, shaping decisions, and offering solace in times of turmoil. Kings consulted oracles before waging wars, farmers sought signs in the skies before planting crops, and individuals turned to divination to make sense of their personal journeys. These practices weren't just about predicting the future, they were about finding meaning in the present, connecting with the divine, and understanding the intricate web of life. What makes these ancient methods so remarkable is their universality. From the crackling flames of pyromancy to the silent whispers of dream interpretation, each technique reflects a deep reverence for the natural world and the belief that the divine could be found in its patterns. They remind us that our ancestors saw the world not as a series of random events, but as a tapestry woven with purpose and meaning. These practices weren't confined to one culture or era. They transcended borders, evolving as they traveled, yet always retaining their core purpose to offer guidance, clarity, and hope. Today, the legacy of ancient divination lives on, often in ways we might not immediately recognize. Modern tarot readings, for instance, trace their roots to the symbolic imagery of medieval cartomancy. Astrology, once the domain of Babylonian priests, continues to captivate millions, offering insights into personality and destiny. Even practices like tea leaf reading or crystal scrying draw inspiration from these age-old traditions. While the tools and contexts may have changed, the underlying desire remains the same: to find connection, to seek answers, and to navigate the unknown with a sense of purpose. But beyond their modern adaptations, these ancient techniques invite us to reflect on something deeper: the timeless human need for wisdom and reassurance. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, the rituals of divination remind us of the power of intuition, observation, and faith. They encourage us to look beyond the surface, to find meaning in the patterns of our lives, and to trust in the unseen forces that guide us. Whether it's the flight of a bird, the shape of a cloud, or the flicker of a flame, these practices remind us that the divine is always speaking, if only we take the time to listen. As we near the end of this journey through the world of ancient divination, it's worth pausing to consider how these practices might still hold relevance today. In an age of instant answers and constant noise, perhaps there's wisdom in slowing down, in observing the world with curiosity, and in finding meaning in the small, everyday moments. After all, the future is not just something to be predicted. It's something to be shaped, one choice, one moment, one question at a time. And so, as we prepare to conclude this exploration, let's take a moment to reflect on the incredible diversity and depth of these ancient techniques. They are more than relics of the past. They are living traditions, offering us a glimpse into the timeless human spirit and its unyielding quest for understanding. But before we close this chapter, let's revisit the journey we've taken, weaving together the threads of these 40 practices into a tapestry of insight and inspiration. The final chapter awaits. From the cryptic whispers of oracles to the precise calculations of astrologers, from the flickering flames of pyromancy to the intricate patterns of tea leaves, we've explored 40 ancient divination techniques that span cultures, continents, and centuries. Each method, whether grounded in the natural world or the realm of the divine, reflects humanity's unyielding desire to make sense of the unknown. These practices weren't just about predicting the future, they were about finding meaning, connection, and guidance in a world full of uncertainty. They remind us that our ancestors saw the universe not as a random collection of events, but as a tapestry woven with purpose, where every bird's flight, every crack in a bone, and every ripple in water carried a message waiting to be understood. What's truly remarkable is the diversity and ingenuity of these techniques. From the celestial maps of astrology to the tactile rituals of haruspicy, from the ephemeral dance of smoke in capnomancy to the grounding patterns of geomancy, each method offers a unique lens through which to view the world. Some, like augury and ornithomancy, turn to the skies and the creatures that inhabit them, while others, like osteomancy and spatulamancy, found wisdom in the bones and entrails of animals. Practices like kleromancy and astrogalomancy embraced chance, believing that even randomness could carry the fingerprints of the divine. And then there were those, like oneromancy and tasseography, that delved into the subconscious, finding meaning in dreams and the dregs of a teacup. Together, they form a mosaic of human ingenuity, a testament to our ancestors' ability to find answers in the world around them. These ancient techniques reveal something profound about the human spirit, our need to seek, to question, and to connect. They remind us that the quest for understanding is timeless, transcending the boundaries of culture and era. Whether through the stars, the earth, or the whispers of nature, our ancestors found ways to navigate life's uncertainties, to find hope in the face of adversity, and to glimpse the divine in the everyday. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, these practices invite us to slow down, to observe, and to trust in the unseen forces that shape our lives. As we close this journey through the world of ancient divination, let's carry forward the spirit of curiosity and wonder that inspired these practices. In seeking answers, we find not just the future, but ourselves, our fears, our hopes, and our boundless capacity for imagination. These techniques, though rooted in the past, continue to resonate today, offering us a glimpse into the rich tapestry of human history and the timeless quest for wisdom. So, what do you think? Which of these ancient divination techniques intrigued you the most? Have you ever tried any of them, or would you like to? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your experiences and insights. And if you enjoyed this exploration into the mysteries of the past, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into history's most fascinating secrets. Together, let's keep uncovering the wonders of the past and the endless possibilities they hold for the future. After all, the greatest mystery of all is the one we're still unraveling the story.